The defending champion booed by the crowd before he's even started the race, and in fact not completely sure that he is the defending champion. Hello, welcome to ITV's coverage of the 2011 Tour de France, which as it turns out is also ITV's continuing coverage of the 2010 Tour de France. There was a time, older viewers might remember it, when one tour actually used to finish before the next one started. But despite the video evidence of Alberto Contador on the top step of the podium in Paris last year, the fact is that we still don't have a definitive winner coming into this year's race. Now, the fine detail we'll get into as the race progresses, but if you haven't been following the whole saga, the basic facts are these. Shortly after winning last year's Tour, it emerged that Contador had tested positive during it for traces of steroids. However, the Spanish Cycling Federation accepted his explanation that he'd eaten contaminated beef and exonerated him. The World Anti-Doping Agency and cycling's governing body, the UCI, then appealed against that verdict, and the Court of Arbitration for Sport was due to rule once and for all on the matter last month. But Contador's lawyers asked for more time to prepare, so a delay was granted, leaving him free to turn up here in northwest France to defend a title he might retrospectively be judged never to have won in the first place. Although, as you heard, the crowd at the team presentation, perhaps having decided that justice delayed was justice denied, delivered their judgment anyway. So not a particularly auspicious start for Alberto Contador, and what's more, should he win the Tour again this year and then lose his court case, he'll be stripped of that title after the fact as well. All in all, a thoroughly bizarre set of circumstances, even by the Tour's high standards, and it adds another layer of intrigue and uncertainty to a race that already had plenty of both. For a start, last year's runner-up Andy Schleck split with his team boss Bjarne Riis in the off-season, taking some of Riis's best riders with him to form a new team, Leopard Trek. Riis retaliated by signing Contador to replace Schleck as leader at Saxo Bank. And the two great rivals, either of whom may yet turn out to be the defending champion, face off on a route designed to upend many of the other certainties we've come to expect from a modern tour. There's no prologue time trial, for example. Starting on the Vendée coast, in fact slightly off the Vendée coast, it's straight onto the road for stage one and sharply uphill at the finish. The first yellow jersey of the race won't be a time trialist or a sprinter, but what the French call a puncheur. Stage 2 is a time trial, a team time trial, the chance for Sky to win their first Tour stage and give Bradley Wiggins an early edge over Schleck and Contador in the process. It's stage 3 before Mark Cavendish gets a look at a flat finish, and he's also looking at a radically redesigned points competition. With world champion Thor Hushovd hitting form at just the right time, the race for the green jersey could be the finest for years. But it's an unusually hilly first week, and it gets hillier as the race turns sharply away from a clockwise start to head south into the heart of France. The Pyrenees are where the real climbing starts. Les Ardennes on stage 12 is the first of 4 summit finishes in this year's Tour. After a stop at Lourdes for the riders to refill their water bottles, Plateau de Bay will be the second. If the likes of Wiggins and Cadel Evans are going to challenge for podium places, they'll be climbing with Schleck and Contador here. The same goes for Jürgen van den Broek and Robert Gesink. But it's the last 2 mountain summits around which this route has been designed. This year is the centenary of the Tour's first visit to the Alps, specifically the Galibier, which tops the bill as the highest finish in race history on stage 18, then reappears the following day as a warm-up act for Alpe d'Huez. The Tour's only individual time trial around Grenoble will settle all the yellow jersey placings the day before Paris, but the green might still be up for grabs on the Champs-Élysées, setting up a grand finale that we trust will remain final. In the meantime, there are some hard facts we can cling on to in an uncertain world. One of them is that stage 1 finishes up here in front of the old windmill on the Mont des Alouettes, which, as any school child who's sung Alouette will tell you, translates as Lark's Hill. Or perhaps not, I'm not sure we ever knew the words when we used to sing it at school. Anyway, it does finish here, and for only the 3rd time since 1966. It's an open road stage, extremely open. You can't get much more exposed than starting offshore on the treacherous tidal causeway of the Passage Du Gois, which brought down half the field in 1999. This time it's just the ceremonial start before the race hits terra safer. New this year is the single super intermediate sprint on every stage, worth 20 points in the green jersey competition. The finish, though, isn't really for sprinters, it's uphill, so Mark Cavendish will be hard-pressed to take the first yellow jersey of this race, although he has set his sights on wearing green in Paris. No sooner had the flag been waved than we had the first attack. 2 Frenchmen and a Dutchman on teams of the same nationalities. Jeremy Roy of Française des Jeux, and 2 Tour debutants, Pierre Comeneur of Europcar and Vestre of Vacances-Soleil, who are also making their Tour debut as a team. The peloton was quite happy to see that trio go away up the road, and they had a lead of 3 minutes 54 approaching the sprint.
So we're now looking at about coming up to 500 metres to the sprint here for the three leaders. I think they will sprint it out. And normally at this stage of the race we'd see them ride through, but there's big points now for green jersey. And as going through now, it's Vestre from Vacances-Soleil, followed by Kemener, who I feel like Paul here, he'd be my bet to win, but we'll see, because now Vestre is going to open up the sprint, looking to see who's going to come. Kemener has never won a bike race, but he's French, and that makes a difference, being stalked by Jeremy Roy, another Frenchman, and it's Roy who goes. Good name, that. The king has just taken off, and it looks as though he's going to get the first point of this newly scoring competition for the green jersey. He gets 20 points for the win. It's a terrific result. It's as many as you would get if you won the time trial on the penultimate day of this Tour de France. So it is Roy getting it, and Vestre second. And we must stop picking people, Paul, because our man just finished third.
That was very unfortunate. Maybe I gave him the kiss of death there. Well, those riders will pick up 20, 17 and 15 points. Now, the first rider to cross the line from the main field will get himself a good chunk of 13 points, down to just a single point for the 15th rider across the line.
And it's advantage Pataki just now, with the Omega Pharma Lotto boys trying to get in, and Philippe Gilbert, the black top champion of Belgium, also willing to work here for Andre Greipel.
Greipel's in 4th position in that line of Omega Pharma Lotto. Big acceleration now, little moving up to the front there. The champion of Holland is making himself aware at the front end of the main field. This is going to be for Pataki, and all of a sudden HTC High Road seem to have got themselves swamped.
Well, 35 and going up in miles per hour now. Everybody checking out where the sprinters are, and it could well be Greipel has got himself in the best place here as they open up the sprint for the line now. Pataki is the third wheel of the centre line as he tries to make a run, but we're coming, and in fact Gilbert is washed away. 1 or 2 bumps there has pushed the Cavendish into a disadvantage here. You would never see a sprint like this normally for 4th place in the green jersey, but now they're rewinding it up here as they start to go for the line. We've still got Cavendish in the hunt.
Cavendish there in 2nd position. Looks like Tom Bonan on his wheel there in 3rd position in the blue and white there. That is the shape of Bonan in 3rd position. Over on the left-hand side, you can see Garmin Savella trying to get themselves wound up, but here comes the big move on the right.
Well, Cavendish is looking at them. He's playing with them, but watch out, because Farah's gone over the top, and Cavendish was not paying attention. And Tyler Farah and Andre Greipel go head-to-head, and Cavendish has said, that's enough for me. He had that one, Paul. He thought nobody was going to come and challenge him.
Well, he wasn't expecting the challenge to come so hard and fast out there on the road. Now look at this. This is the American rider in the middle in the blue helmet, Tyler Farah, just getting the better there of Greipel, who looks over his shoulder as if to say, so where are you, Mr. Cavendish?
Well, what that's done now is Farah gets up in the finish when we come down to the line at Les Herbiers. He could be in the green jersey at least tonight, even if he doesn't win the stage, because that is a very valuable 13 green jersey points in the bank. Now look at this. Now Cavendish was almost going easy. Now he's making his traditional move, but not wanting to overuse his energy. But then when it all happens from Farah, he looks again and thinks, heck, I've made a mistake here, and he's totally swamped out of it.
Yeah, but what goes through a sprinter's mind, once you know you're beaten, you feel defeated, you just give up, and that's why all of a sudden Cavendish has said, well, forget about that. I'm not getting maximum points here this afternoon. I'll save it all for the finish line. This is Pierre Roland, but I think the fact that he's struggling quite so much was he had a very nasty tumble around about 5-6 miles ago. He's made the junction there. We're now looking, these speeds are so high, it's very difficult to get yourself back into the main field. We're looking at speeds pretty much close to 30-32 miles an hour.
Well, there's no doubt. Oh, and there's been, we're looking to the left here now as we see all of these riders here. Now, this is a massive pile-up, Paul. I just caught a glimpse of it outside of my eye, and that's just happened.
Well, let's have a look at where it's happened, because it's over on the right-hand side, and it's gone down very hard indeed, and that has blocked the main field. Wow. This is why, Phil, inside of the last 20 kilometres, you've got to ride in the front. Now, it's difficult to see just exactly whether or not any of the big leaders were involved in that accident there. And in fact, it was a spectator who just was standing too close into the road there, and a rider from Astana went down very hard. It actually looked like Alexander the Vinokurov.
Well, let's hope there's nobody injured there, but that was a massive pile-up, and it's come at the most crucial stage of the charge for the finish and completely split the peloton here. Well, time now really does matter if any of the potential candidates of final victory. It happened on the right of the road there, and it looked as though a rider from Astana did clip the side of a spectator, and he ricocheted left, unfortunately, right into the pack, which took out a lot of riders. Now they've got a split. So as we see the race now, they are 3.8 miles from the finish, and there is a very definite split on.
Thomas Voeckler there in the green jersey. He's looking very nervous, looking left and right, staying right up in the first 4-5 positions. Also, Philippe Gilbert very comfortable on the right-hand side in the black, yellow and red jersey, champion of Belgium.
There is Alberto Contador playing with his little radio piece. And now, I'm not sure where he is, but I think he might be on the offensive here to try and chase up to the lead group. He's got his whole team working for him. So Contador, like the day when we went down to La Grande Motte a couple of years ago, is losing seconds to men who may matter later on in the Tour de France.
When you're the man who's the defending champion, you've got to remain calm in a moment like this. This is only one day, Phil, out of 22 days of racing. It won't be good for his morale, but he can't panic. He can't push himself into the red zone. He's got to look around, use his team, and hope that maybe on the final ascent up to the line that he can try and pull back a few seconds. Now it's Radio Shack. Jaroslav Popovic on the front end of the main field with a big R on his shoulder. He is thinking about this. Hincapie in second, third position there on the left-hand side with the white glasses. He's looking over his shoulder. Come on, Cadel Evans, you can stay with me. This could be a very interesting point. We're looking here, Phil, 31 seconds Contador has lost at this point.
This is what you said earlier, Paul, because Cadel Evans was riding at the front to keep himself out of trouble, and it's not just kept him out of trouble at the moment, it's working in his favor. These are huge time gaps when you've lost the Tour by 23 and you're half a minute ahead. That could be the Tour in 3 weeks' time. You just don't know. At 2.7 miles to go. Radio Shack and BMC, the two American teams, and HTC High Road have got themselves in perfect position here. Remember, George Hincapie in his 16th Tour, he's seen it all before.
He has seen it all before, that is for certain, because now we can see BMC getting it worked up at the front. Third place there is Bernie Eisel, the Austrian rider. It's out to 36 seconds now for Alberto Contador. He's not going to pull back any of that time here, Phil, because these guys are full on for the stage victory here this afternoon. Andreas Kloden of Radio Shack has made the junction. All of the big leaders have been very attentive. It would appear to me only one man has been caught out, and that is the defending champion. He's in this group with 2 miles to go. Alberto Contador, there he is.
Well, I doubt it is going to get back now in less than 2 miles to go. He is 36 seconds behind. Well, this has been an incredible turnaround at just about 8 kilometers from the finish. A crash has altered the destiny of the stage of the Tour de France. Well, it may not have done, because Philippe Gilbert is about 4th or 5th in the line here and just on 2 kilometers from the finish.
Andre Greipel is not going for the win this afternoon. He's the man on the front. He's digging deep now to keep this pace nice and high, because in 3rd position you've got Philippe Gilbert. In 4th position you've got Thomas Voeckler. In 5th position you've got Damiano Cunego.
Well, that was a huge effort by Greipel. It lasted about 100 meters because the big sprinter on the flat couldn't cope with the climb as we're now heading up towards the finish. This is all the pressure on the man in black now, and he's only got 2 men left in front of him, and Thomas Voeckler is there. There's another crash here. We've gone back down the road. I'm not exactly sure where, but is this the Contador group in trouble again?
Well, there's a lot of riders are very nervous today, Phil. They really are taking all kinds of risks. It's the first day. We're looking here at inside of 3 kilometers to go. This group has been splintered completely as Philippe Gilbert is in 3rd place.
Now that's going to be a difficult call for the referees, because the 3 kilometers to go rule will come into play, but the race was already split, so they're going to have to sort that one out, and we'll have to go with whatever they decide. But these are the attacks we expected to come now, and that is a good move to aid the man in 3rd place, Gilbert. He needed somebody to put a big move in.
Well, I tell you what, Katusha have put the big attack in, but Philippe Gilbert is sitting and waiting. I spoke to somebody just before the start about how to win this stage here. You've got to wait. You've got to bide your time right down to the last moment. Right up there in third position. It looks like Rojas is looking very comfortable indeed. Not too far away in the green jersey. Thomas Vogler is looking ready to see whether or not he can pounce. The Spanish national champion Phil in third position. Rojas has got an incredible turn of speed, especially at the top of a climb like this. Cunego is in fourth.
Well, Philippe Gilbert there telling his teammate to keep the pressure on for as long as he can by shaking his head in second place. He doesn't want to be at the front yet. I've got to watch the right here of the road because this is also another, and that looks to me like the little figure of Alexander Vinokurov who's launched the attack. That was to be expected, and this is helping Gilbert. Voigtler has got second wheel. Gilbert is third. Hushoff is moving up as well. He's in about sixth place in the white jersey.
Bosenhagen is right up there as well, but here's Fabian Cancellara.
That is Fabian Cancellara who's gone with a huge amount, and Gilbert recognised that one because if Cancellara goes, you've got to counter. That is an absolute flyer, but you know it's a long way to the finish of this bend as you sweep around the corner. Cancellara looking, and he's got trouble on his wheel. Gilbert does not want to go yet, but he may have no choice. He's got to jump and make it hard. Gilbert kicks again. The champion of Belgium has got it. Well, he goes up towards the line now, and Cancellara, he made the move spot on, but Philippe Gilbert was right there in it. Now, can he hang on, Paul? Because this is desperate moments as Gilbert tries to hang on. He's got just about 500 metres to go.
Yeah, but coming up in third place looks like Cadel Evans as well, because coming around this final corner, Philippe Gilbert really had the acceleration. He's got to keep going, though, because there's a long, interminable hill, and Cadel Evans is coming across the gap.
Oh, it's going to hurt the legs, but that's a result for Cadel Evans and for Philippe Gilbert. Win 14 for him. Cadel Evans has had a tremendous day. The favourite has got second there, amongst the favourites got second on a day the Contador has lost time. That's a big start now as the clock continues to count now. The seconds go by. Well, this is going to be a very unusual overall classification tonight, but there's no doubt the first maillot jaune will go to Philippe Gilbert.
But the time gaps have appeared. There's Contador over on the right-hand side with the yellow sunglasses.
He grits his teeth. He's got to keep going. The clock is counting against him here. So as they race up towards the line, that clock is enormous. Now, we don't know whether some of this, Andy Schleck is in this group as well. So at least Contador and Schleck go in tomorrow in the same time. It looks about a minute 20. Contador now knows this has been a grim day in the Tour de France for him. Andy Schleck alongside him. Bradley Wiggins is there as well. So the big names finishing there. Well, again for Evans.
They must have been involved in that second crash because Bradley Wiggins was riding right at the front end of the main field. So I have a feeling that Andy Schleck and Bradley Wiggins went down in the second crash. But there's no doubt at all about the winner of the stage this afternoon, Philippe Gilbert of Belgium, and the champion to boot.
Now, as Paul rightly pointed out, the second crash of the run-in, which held up Wiggins, Schleck and a host of others in that front group, came inside the final 3 kilometres. And although that generally would see them given back their lost time, it's not a rule that's usually applied on uphill finishes. And when Bradley spoke to us, there was still a bit of frantic flicking through the rulebook going on.
Have you got a clear idea of where you were and what went on and if you've lost time or not?
I was with the front group when I was held up, so that to me says I should have the same time as them, but it's the Tour de France and you never know. So.
But there's no injury, there was no hit in the ground?
No, nothing like that. I just got caught behind it.
One of those stages where you can lose the Tour, you can't win it, but it can go horribly wrong, but you've got through it okay?
Yeah, no, it was a lot better than I expected, so I was pleased with that today.
And considerably more pleased, or at least relieved, when the race organisers confirmed that although the 3 kilometre rule doesn't usually apply on uphill finishes, today's wasn't steep enough to qualify, and so it did.
Tous les coureurs, on a un film à 3 km de l'arrivée. Tous les coureurs qui sont dans le premier temps vont être classés dans le premier peloton.
D'accord, ça veut dire Wiggins, etc.
Wiggins, Andy Schleck, tout ça vont être reclassés dans le premier peloton.
Of course, the ruling didn't affect the stage result. Philippe Gilbert getting the win. Everyone had credited him with in advance for at least the last 6 months. 3 seconds ahead of Cadel Evans, who was 3 seconds ahead of Tur Hushovd. Behind him were Jose Joaquin Rojas, Jürgen van den Broek, Geraint Thomas with a great ride, Andreas Kloeden and Rein Taramay. There was an original group of 19 in all who came in 6 seconds down, including Frank Schleck and David Miller. Samuel Sanchez was 32nd, losing a minute 20, as did Alberto Contador in 35th. They didn't get their time back because they were delayed in the first crash well outside 3 kilometres. Andy Schleck, Ivan Basso, Brad Wiggins and Ben Swift were among the riders who finished behind them, but were all bumped up to that 6-second group.